So the snow moon is very nearly with us. It's coming up at 3:17 a.m. Eastern on the 27th of February. So we're getting pretty close to it now. It's going to be midnight 17 Pacific and 8:17 a.m. here in the United Kingdom. I'm Andy. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you're doing pretty good. Actually, hope you're doing better than we are here for weather at the moment. The trees are blown over right like that as I look out my window. Absolutely howling winds going at the moment, so it's pretty difficult getting a live link right now. Hope I'm going to be going live in the next day or so. I really enjoy doing those live videos, and thanks everyone who's supporting them, and thank you for supporting my channel by tuning in today. So full moon, a time of cleanups. It's going to really make a difference to the Trump situation for one thing, really because it's making a difference all over the world. So we'll do a bit of tarot reading with Tarot in Wonderland here, my deck of choice. I've been working with this deck such a long time now. Hasn't been out all that long, I suppose, but I've been working with it kind of over a year, and you know, doing lots and lots of readings with it. So I'm really comfortable with this one, and I notice you guys like it as well. In terms of the astrology of 2021, this is a real interesting moment actually, because January particularly was like a building site, a construction site, setting things up, getting things prepared for the rest of the year, and not just the rest of the year, the rest of the age, the eon, as we go forward into the age of Aquarius. I've got some facts and figures in front of me here. There we go. So it's going to be 8 degrees and 57 minutes of Virgo, so just into Virgo when we hit that full moon, and it's also making aspects to Saturn and Uranus as well. Saturn square Uranus is you know, the main planetary aspect of 2021, so that's ruling a lot of things, and it means a lot of change, not necessarily easy change, but this full moon should be a time when it's fairly easy to make changes, or at least easier than we think it's going to be to make changes, and life has changed, so that's good news. Also, when you just think of the way the world is, the situation in the world at the moment, goodness knows we need change. And I mentioned Trump there. There's stuff going on in British politics at the moment, I'm sure there is, but it's not getting widely reported on the news, so there's not much I can tell you about it. But we're going through Brexit, you know, and Brexit has become a sort of symbolic thing around the world as Britain left Europe right at the beginning of January, supposedly, finally, and for the last time. It hasn't made a massive difference yet because, I guess, of, you know, things that are going on with people's health problems in the world that we try not to mention on YouTube if we can help it, if we don't want to get demonetized. And I'm not monetized yet either, but I hope to be one day soon, so I'm not going to say too much about it. But not much has been changing in a lot of parts of the world actually because of that. Things are on hold, people are putting things on hold, and as we come up to March, April, I know in our part of the world anyway, the vaccines are starting to have an effect on the overall picture. Schools are going back, things are changing, so I think we might see quite a lot of pent-up changes that have been waiting to happen actually coming into being. Either around the full moon or immediately after it, actually. We're also in this part, my exact part of the world, which is Wales, United Kingdom, coming up to the 1st of March, which is very kind of, you know, beginning of spring type of time. And to actually put some pictures on my coffee page, ko-fi.com/Andy's Readings. There's a link to it down below. I put some pictures of snowdrops on there the other day, and I got some pictures of daffodils coming out as well. And that's great news because St David's Day, St David is the patron saint of Wales, UK, and St David's Day is on the 1st of March. So that's always a great time. It's a time when we can start sort of going out into the garden and growing stuff. And I do like to grow my own food as I go along. Actually, that's part of my way of life. But it's a reawakening, you know, it's a time of life coming back into itself, you know, things actually coming to life, and life coming into all the situations that we're all wondering about wherever we are in the world at the moment. Big question with UK, and this is the first thing I'm going to pull a card for actually. because it's a big thing for everyone in the world at the moment, is what's going to be happening with China. And I guess, I mean, really mostly on it in terms of the economy and economics, because China is really affecting the world a lot. Notice the mainstream media don't talk much about China here in the UK. It's just kind of the elephant in the room that no one talks about. But change has got to happen there, you know. It's absolutely unstoppable. China is the last real bastion, the last sort of firm standing ground of communism. And I can't see it lasting much longer. Probably, you know, a few more years to come. But I think we're really, you know, seeing communism in its death throes at the moment. It's symbols of communism now are places like North Korea, and you know, that needs no further explanation from me, does it? But let's pull 3 tarot cards for China, just to kind of past, present and future look at China, just to set the ball rolling. Okay, so the first card I've pulled out, it's number 20, and camera going to focus on that. It's number 20, it's the Judgement card, and wow, very close in meaning to the idea of the Justice card, actually. Major Arcana number 20, and there are only 21 cards in the Major Arcana. The one after that is the World. So this is really kind of, you know, stuff is getting its boots on around China at the moment. It's bound to get harder and harder for them to make money with the trade slowdown in the world, and there's a certain amount of karma, I think, going on in that whole situation as well. We've got the rabbit blowing the trumpet of justice here. Is that focused in again? I'm never sure if it focuses, you know, but we've got the rabbit blowing the trumpet of justice there, and these souls down here on the ground seeming to start waking up. And that, to me, in this context of China, it's about political prisoners, and in fact the whole world is a bit of a political prisoner with China at the moment. Things changing there. The whole situation, oh dear, you know, the disease that's gone around the world, all of that, it's got people kind of staying at home as much as possible. It's got more people, for example, growing their own food. I mean, that's what I do. That's my little example of it. But also, you know, it's just become much better idea to make things or to mend things rather than buying new stuff. Chinese stuff is certainly very cheap. It's not as plentiful as it was. Some of the big tech companies are now having terrible trouble getting hold of silicon chips to make new cars, and the way cars have gone, you can't make new cars without silicon chips now, and you can't like make the car and put the chips in afterwards. It's all a part of the whole process, and that's slowing down. It's getting harder to get a new graphics card, that kind of thing. You know, more and more people are building expensive new computers using second-hand graphics cards because, you know, you just kind of can't get hold of them. So there's no escaping the judgment, really. And is this divine judgment? Well, I tend to think it is, because when you think of the human rights abuses in China, the Uyghur Muslims, and that's just naming one of a zillion human rights abuses that are going on there. It can't go on forever. You know, we all have angels, we all have spirit guides who send their love to us all the time. And sure, you have to ask the angels for that to work, but you know, the forces of light are incredibly strong, much stronger than our world leaders give the forces of light credit for. And light is just bound to come in the end. We have darkness, so we appreciate light, but there's only so much darkness going to be allowed to kind of come in and play around with us at this time. Card number 2 for the China situation, it's the Queen of Swords, and this lady is taking absolutely no nonsense from anybody, and this kind of shows a way out for China in a way, because it's the middle card, it's the heart of the matter, so it's quite important, because where the Queen of Swords is involved, as long as you've got a genuinely good plan, you're going to have some success. There is no fooling the Queen of Swords. She is a strict mistress, she's a hard mistress, and she's not going to take any nonsense. But if that whole massive enigma that is the Chinese state actually has a good plan that is genuinely going to reform things and genuinely put things right for all the people who are being either just messed about or maybe treated with the most incredible excuse me, either being messed about or being treated with the most incredible cruelty at the moment. If there's something that China can do to actually turn that round, then China is almost certainly going to survive. It seems like an inexorable thing. It seems like there's no stopping China, but right from the beginning they've been throwing huge amounts of money away. It's not actually real that things can be made as cheaply as they're being made and shipped around the world for next to no money. That's costing someone somewhere, and at some deeply secret level it is hammering the Chinese state. They are hammering themselves, so very, very difficult for them to just keep on and on doing that ad infinitum. Sometime, you know, it all gets written down, and then that credit balance, that financial balance, whatever it is going to bite. So things are looking like changing, because we've got the Queen of Swords there. She is a very strict mistress, as I said, but when she comes up, there is a chance that people are actually going to follow that path and things are actually going to change. So what's card number 3 for China, I wonder, in this reading? Around the full moon, it's the 7 of Cups coming in around the full moon, February 2021. So this is imminent change. This is likely going to be happening. But the 7 of Cups is a very indecisive kind of card, so we're not going to have absolute full-on solutions just yet. As I look at the Queen of Swords there and think, you know, things have to change, and they really do have to change. Obviously, it's a not yet. Obviously, the Chinese are going to be dragging their feet a bit. In fact, they're probably going to drag their feet quite a lot, because for many of them, it's all they've ever known, and they don't really understand democracy. They don't really understand ordinary people having a full say in things. They seem to know that they've got to give ordinary people some say, but they're still just kind of faking it, as far as I can see, when I look into the news and when I look at what's actually going on in the world at the present time. So, 7 of Cups, this is the outcome card for this Chinese situation, and all Alice can do, as she's faced with this kind of panel behind her with all these strange magical looking images on them. There's no real magic there, you know. It's all kind of smoke, it's all mirrors, it's not really making any sense. So she turns around, she's looking forward, she's looking away from it. She's happy because somehow that is actually telling her that things can be good. There are 4 candles in this card as well. So there is illumination, there is light, and that's the angel number 4, isn't it? So the angels are going to be on the case. Looks to me like kind of China is a bit all over the place, according to this this reading that I've just done there. And change is just bound to happen. The 7 of Swords is, you know, it's one of those cards that doesn't really point to anything solid happening, but that lack of anything solid happening is actually going to be a thing that presses for change. It's actually going to be pushing to make things different. So there we go, that's my quick look at China. I must admit, one reason for doing that is that I'm interested in doing political readings, because politics is something that really affects the nature of people's experience in the world, and that is what gives people the good times, the bad times, the deep upset. It's responsible for a lot of bereavement when you look at wars and people passing over to the spirit world, and particularly when you look at the disease that's going around the world at the present time. I'm not saying that's entirely a political thing, but it's certainly got political aspects. And when you think about the environment and what environmentalists have been telling us for many decades now, it's not really too surprising that something has come out of nowhere and made life really hard and sent a disease round the world, because we haven't been treating the planet well one little bit really, and we're still trying to kind of get away with it. You know, at the top level you can cut down as many trees as you want, as long as you kind of plant some new seeds and give some disabled rights money to someone or something. You can sort of buy your way out of pollution or whatever else you want to do, if you're a zillionaire, if you've got the ability to do that, all the financial backing. So we're still messing with it, you know, because there really is no second-guessing nature. As I said right at the beginning, the trees are bent over really like that. As I look out the window now, they keep springing back a bit, and then there's, whoa, a big gust of wind comes again. And there is just no stopping nature. It's harder to feel that if you live in the towns and in the cities, because the buildings break up the wind. They kind of break up the worst effects of it. And it's always that bit warmer. But out here in the country, stuff doesn't grow as well as it used to do, you know, because it gets torn apart. The river keeps bursting its banks, and at a small level that causes economic damage, just microscopic level in the village, because no one can kind of go and get their essential shopping or anything like that. And when you add that to what's been going on with the big disease, then you know, that really is causing a very, very deep problem for the local business owners now. It's deepening it a lot. In the towns we see less of it, but it's coming in more and more, you know. It's really kind of taking control, and it's really making a difference to things. So let's think some more about the full moon, what it actually means, and what this one means in particular. And generally speaking, full moons, which is the sun opposite the moon, that's why it's so brightly lit, because excuse me, because all the light we see coming from the moon is reflected sunlight. The sun is really in charge of what's going on. So sun opposite moon at absolute 0 degrees, which is what the full moon is all about whenever it comes, whichever full moon it is in the year, brings home, family, intimate relationships, that kind of thing, into much sharper focus, especially over the following 2 weeks of that moon phase. But obviously when we contemplate those things, because it's so intimate, because it's so close to home, it does actually quite often result in us making decisions, making choices, making changes which actually reach out into the rest of our lives. So it's really positive. They're calling it the snow moon. I've seen it called the cold moon as well. And in my part of the world, just the way the climate is here, it can be either, and it's quite often both. It's pretty cold out there now. We haven't had any snow for a couple of weeks now. I think that's sort of more or less past. Touched wood. There's no wood to touch here, actually. Oh yeah, there's a bit over there. Right, I've touched wood now for luck. But you know, there could be snow. There is quite often snow here, suddenly and massively, right at the beginning of March. The farmers remember, I think 1982, they actually had to sort of dig a hole through the snow and then make a hole in the fence to get out onto the main road. And once they got there, the whole main road was covered in snow. Everything came to an absolute standstill. So you never know. We're certainly not out of the woods in UK here as regards winter yet, and I'm sure that's the case all over the northern hemisphere. But anyway, that's full moons generally, and I look at the general meaning of the February one. But to be absolutely specific, this particular full moon has a lot to do with changing rules. We've got Saturn square Uranus within 44 degrees of each other, and that's going to make a conflict between taking responsibility for things and actually being independent. And those things are often kind of very, you know, they go up against each other, those two things. Independence is one thing, but if you're going to be truly independent, then very often you're shedding responsibility or ignoring responsibility for that in order to do something. It's change, it's stability, strength, intuition, relationship challenges, really, and that's what all this is going to be playing into. It also, you know, there's just conflict all over the place when we look at it. Religious things, people rebelling, people going against the rules, and following the rules is very often a religious thing for a lot of people who don't like to rock the boat, who don't like to upset the apple cart or shake the tree in any way. But that tree is going to shake for absolute certain. Changes can happen that we don't really want. They can be really quite challenging, and we have to rise to the challenge. Can be positive change as well, you know, and that's what we've got to try and be aware of and steer things towards being positive change, finding the good in it, as much good as we can, so getting the most out of it in that sense. So let's take a look at some tarot cards. I'm going to do another 3-card pick for this actual full moon, this snow moon, this cold moon, February 27th 2021, and it is actually the 27th of February wherever you are in the, well, in the northern hemisphere at least, because it's going to be 17 minutes past midnight Pacific, 17 minutes past 3 a.m. Eastern, 17 minutes past 8 a.m. in UK, and I don't know, different times in Europe because it kind of shakes around and it changes. And we are actually also coming towards daylight saving time, which starts I think March the 13th in UK. March the 12th, I am very happy and honoured to have been invited into a video with Celtic Tarot Sheila. It's going to be on her channel, and it's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern time. Sorry, no, it's not. It's going to be 1 p.m. Mountain time on Celtic Tarot Sheila. I'm going to be on there with Whimsy and Nina, taking part in the remote view, which I always enjoy watching the remote view actually, and it's an honour. I'm excited to be going on to that. And that is just before we go into British summertime. Daylight saving time seems to be different in the States and Canada. I'm not really sure about it. I haven't looked it up, to be honest. But anyway, this full moon coming just before all that kind of normal expected change is going to throw some spanners into the works, and it really is going to be changing the rules. Excuse me. So I've picked out 3 cards. Going to go 1, 2, 3. This order now. And card number 1 here is the 2 of Cups. Okay, now this is actually very positive. This shows that the change coming in could be very positive indeed. It's not going to be positive for everyone, but I think it's going to be positive for most of us, which means the world leaders are just going to have to kind of suck it and see what happens, and the rest of us, I think, are going to be in a much, much better, happier position, because it's the 2 of Cups. This is well, in a relationship reading, it's very often about 2 people coming together. But in this reading, which is really about the change going on in the world, I feel that good stuff is going to start happening. The love, the light is going to start overcoming things in a big way. And you know, one thing the disease has really affected is it's got families a lot closer together, sometimes closer together than they really actually ever wanted to be, I'm afraid. But it's got people not just loving it, but understanding what family is all about, understanding what's really important to them. When you can't go out, when you can't work, when you can't change your job, when you can't do a great many things, you become aware of what you actually still can do, and you become aware of how important that is. So that's a big influence there, the 2 of Cups. It's a big flying green teapot in the sky, and if you're a progressive rock fan from the 1970s, which I am a bit, you might see some rather magical meaning in the green teapot there for sure. Heart of the matter. Okay, middle card, it's the King of Pentacles, a lover of life and all the riches you can have in life, and he's got this big spread on the table in front of him. He's ready to feed people. He's ready to bring other people to the table, because he understands there's no point in hoarding resources. And so as we look at the potential for change of rules, which is absolutely massive with his Saturn square Uranus full moon that's coming up, we actually see that things have got to change in favour of sharing things, in favour of actually sharing the love, sharing the energy, sharing the food as well. Things really coming strongly into balance with the King of Pentacles there, and that's the heart of the matter. So what's card number 3? What's the outcome going to be? It's the Knight of Swords. So we've got the sword energy there, which is all about decisions. A lot to do with the Wands energy of getting things done, because you have to actually make the decision to get things done, and the Knight of Wands is going to make it happen. It really, that's the energy that we've got here. Knight is very kind of thrusting character, a lot wiser than the Sage, less powerful than the King and Queen, but nevertheless, things are most certainly going to be happening. And speaking from UK, where we actually have kings and queens, we've got a queen at the moment, and much talk about who's going to be king when she kind of comes to the end of her journey through this life, which, I mean, she's in her mid-90s at the moment, so I guess that's kind of on the table at some point. And we actually have kings and queens, but it's always Parliament, it's always the elected government that makes the actual decisions. The Queen appears at Parliament every year, just as it's opening, and makes a speech saying what she wants Parliament to do. But it's always a speech that's been written for her by the actual ruling government as the party is opening. So it's never really what she wants, it's all symbolic. So as we look at the Knight of Swords, these are the forces that actually get things done, actually make things happen. Now another aspect of the Knight of Swords is that things go in cycles, and if things aren't ready to happen this time, they can happen further on down the line in the cycle, because the Knight is actually going to keep moving, is actually going to keep deciding things, and it's just going to go with the flow of the energy of the moment. So as an outcome card, I guess that's where we're all going to be in terms of the full moon, February 27th 2021. There's no stopping this energy. It's really kind of a powerful spread that we got there from the tarot in Wonderland. So it's all about change, it's all about kind of breaking the stagnation, I suppose is how I put it. Things have been very stagnant in this world, have they not, friends? You know, particularly since the big disease came up. About a year ago from now is when it started really biting and started really affecting us. The last time I conducted a service actually physically present in a spiritualist church was the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. It was a Friday of February 2020, and then I went to that church again 2 weeks later, because it's a fortnightly thing, on the 28th of February, and then that church didn't meet again after that, and actually all the churches stopped meeting then. We tend to think of it as March 2020 when everything took effect. That was when governments started changing rules, but already in February people were making their own decision that they were going to self-isolate, or they were going to close down these public things and stop doing them. The fear was definitely there, and I particularly remember at that last big service that I went to, walked in there, and I suppose you can always smell people, you know, but excuse me, I was much more aware of it because we were all kind of paranoid about catching things from each other. And as I walked in there, you could kind of smell people's perfume, you could even smell toothpaste, and you just knew you were in close proximity with people, and maybe that wasn't the best thing to be. So people were making the decisions, and people were making the difference, really, before the governments of the world jumped on the thing. And that's how I see this full moon going, actually, because when change is pushed in on the level that the cards have actually shown today that the change is going to be pushed in, governments are slow to react. You know, they want to be in charge, they want to have a plan, so they don't look as if they're just making up ideas on the hoof, as it were, and just kind of blindly scrambling, which is what they're all doing all the time anyway. But we're going to see change in people's hearts, we're going to see change in people's minds. I can see big changes around China, as I spoke about in the first 3-card spread we did today, and I can see massive changes everywhere else, because the King of Pentacles is about, you know, sharing the love, sharing the dream, actually sharing the wealth around with people, and the more the authorities do that, the better it's going to, you know, they're going to be in a much better position, because it's that old conveyor belt of abundance. If you actually use the good energy, use the abundance you've got at the moment in a good way, in a positive way, then that's gone and the conveyor belt rolls along and something new comes in. And if you keep using that, things don't get stagnant the way they have been for so long now. So all that is going to change, all that's looking pretty positive. Going to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks ever so much for watching. Big thumbs up if you've enjoyed this one, please, and do hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't already. Links to all good things are down there. If you would like to buy the channel a coffee, or buy me a coffee, or a cup of tea, because I'm a tea drinker, please go to the link that's about coffee.com. It's ko-fi.com/Andy's Readings. If you'd like a personal reading, it's 35and83@gmail.com. That is 35and83@gmail.com. And for a small fee, we will make an arrangement. Also links to Facebook, also links to Instagram. It's all happening. Okay, so thanks again, guys. I hope you have a great time ahead. Keep it real, keep it twig, brother. I'll be back with more readings very soon. And if you haven't seen one of my live sessions yet, please do come along. I love the lives because I can actually work one-to-one with you. I can pull you a card. It might be a very quick thing because the lives are getting busy. They're getting popular now, and I'm so grateful, so delighted for that, and for everyone who's been supporting them. But come along on a live, and with a bit of luck, I'll actually be able to give you something personally relevant exactly to you. Meanwhile, take good care of yourselves, friends. I'll see you again very soon. Love, light, blessings, and peace.